Welcome back to More Than a Song. I'm your host, Tom Sears, and I just want to begin by saying thank you. Episode 1 got off to an incredible start, and that's because of you, the listener. Your support, your shares, and your encouragement means so much. And it's clear that this podcast is already resonating in a very powerful way. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, like, and share so that you don't miss a single episode, and your friends don't either. And we also ask you to do that so that more people can discover the heart behind Breanna's music. So More Than a Song is a part of the Anchor Point Media Network, and in each episode, we go beyond the lyric to uncover the stories, the faith, and the purpose behind the songs. And today, once again, I'm joined by my daughter, Breanna Megan. She's a Christian singer-songwriter. And on our first episode, we dove into the song In the Silence, which is the song that kind of started it for her. It was on the Near album, her first recorded album. And we're just kind of working through that album now. And so we are on episodes 2, which is also track 2 of the Near album. And we're going to dive into the song Never Changing. And it's a reminder that in a world that shifts and shakes, God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Always faithful, always steadfast, and always true. And don't forget, you can find Never Changing and all of Breanna's music on your favorite streaming platform. So let's jump into this episode of More Than a Song. Well, hello, Breanna. Let's try that again because her mic was off. Hi, Breanna.
Hi.
Hey, there you are. Sorry about that. So I was mentioning there in the open that the first podcast did really, really well, and I'm super encouraged by that. A lot of people listened and liked and shared, and so it's a good thing.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody listening. It wasn't easy to share, so thank you for listening and sharing. And I hope that my music isn't about just me trying to get my name out there. It's to bring a light and hopefully lead people to Jesus. So, yeah, I hope that it helped you. So thank you.
So it started last episode with In the Silence, and now we transition to this song called Never Changing. Talk to us about it.
So Never Changing, and it's not, the album isn't, when I put the songs on the album, it's not in order of how I wrote the songs. So I can't remember exactly when I wrote Never Changing, but it was definitely towards like the spring, summer of 2019. So, when I wrote Never Changing, I was, of course, going through that season of asking God to make me who he wanted me to be, change me. Of course, if you listen to the first episode, you know how In the Silence came to be. And so I was still transitioning through that season of my life. And so Never Changing was me trying to find who God was to me. And it was just me diving into my faith, diving into who God was. And so it was the realization that even when situations cause pain, when situations cause sorrow, Jesus never changes. He's always the same yesterday, today, and forever. And that's really what this song is about. It's just about how our lives shift and our lives change, but he's always the same.
So he is always the same. It's very reminiscent of, I remember it must have been 2007, transitioning into 2008. And I had been at the church for a couple years as a senior pastor. And I remember that, all these pastors had like these mottos or slogans or whatever going into a new year. And I remember being like, God, why don't I have one? We kind of get that way, right? So I was like, why don't I have one? And I just remember praying and saying, God, give me a word for the upcoming year, for 2008. And he said, I'm the same yesterday, today, and forever. And that's what I preached on. And as I look back on it now, I I realized how much I needed that word because we had challenges that arose in 2008 that we just were blindsided by, including the loss of our church bookkeeper, Marcia Poth, who had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And, so he is never changing. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And we find tremendous strength in that fact. So what does that song, aside from that, because I know that you're very, your songs are a reflection of what place you're walking through. So.
Yeah. So I think I wrote this song. I think it was March. If I could go back, I think it was March when I wrote this song. So before that, I had written a song, which I'm not going to jump ahead, but it was Fighting My Battles, which I had written in February. And so this song, Never Changing, came after that. And when I write, sometimes I resonate with David in the Bible. And I always say this because, like, when I read the Psalms, like, one minute he's like praising the Lord and he's thanking God, and the next minute he's like, why have you abandoned me? And I can say that in a lot of my life, there have been a lot of moments like that, especially in this season, in 2018, going into 2019, trying to discover who God was, where he was leading me, confused about life. And so I really felt like moments of highs and lows. And so I had that song, Fighting My Battles, which I won't explain right now, in February. And so then this one came in March. And it was a place I remember feeling like, okay, things are beginning to get better. I'm feeling better. Things around me, situations, I thought I was trying to have hope. I was trying to be positive. And so I was like, okay, you're never changing. And in my mind at that time, because again, I was still trying to discover who he was, it was like, you're never changing. So you're going to turn everything how I think it should be. You're going to turn everything to look how I think it should. And of course, as I've grown in God, I realized that doesn't happen always. There are things that we think should happen, and it doesn't always turn out how we think. But that's really, I think, where I was in that season when I wrote this song. And just, there's a part in the song that says, I know you're with me even when I can't see. Light in the darkness, you're leading me. And that was really my heart crying out like, God, I know that I don't understand situations. I don't understand life. I don't understand what you want me to do. I don't understand anything, because I felt like I was lost completely. But I know that you have a plan in all things. And so even when it's dark, I'm going to trust you. And that was where I was at with this song. So knowing that he gives me a future, he gives me a hope, knowing that it doesn't matter what life storms are going on, he is with me. And that's the heart of this song, is knowing he is never changing, knowing that he is the I am. He's the same God that led the Israelites out of Egypt. He's the same God that can give the blind man sight. He's the same God. And we don't always see those miracles today. Like, I think people question, is he the same God? Because we don't see those things. But he really is never changing. And this was just me finding he was never changing.
So I think you definitely spoke to something there that is true. That number one, he is never changing, but at the same time, a lot of people question, I think, because they don't see some of the things that others have seen, as far as how God moves and different things. So, but I had asked you to grab your guitar, and could we hear just maybe the chorus of Never Changing?
Yeah, I can do that. You're never changing, always the same. Abba, Father, I give you praise. You're in my future, you fix what's wrong. You're moving mountains so I can go on.
So you were singing there and you were saying, you're in my future. What were you saying? I mean, I know what you're saying, but because everything that you write is more than a song, there was there was something there. So when you say, you're in my future, you fix what's wrong. Explain to us what that line means.
So, of course, again, I was in that season of just questioning and wondering, and I so desperately wanted to know what God wanted for my life. At that time, I was in college. I was going to become a teacher, but I still felt like so unsettled with what God had for me. And in 2019, it was the same year that I was to become the worship leader here at our church. And so, there were transitions happening, but yet I still felt lost. I still felt like I didn't know what to do. And so when I say, you're in my future, you fix what's wrong, like, you're in my future, because God is everywhere and he knows everything. I believe he knows exactly where I'm going to end up. And so he was in the places that I didn't see. And it gave comfort to me to know that I might not see what is in front of me, but he does. And there's this quote from Corrie ten Boom that I love. And it says, trust an unknown future to a known God. And I love that, because a lot of times, even now in my life, there's so many unknowns. And yet I want to be the person of faith that says, I'm going to trust my unknown future to a known God, to the God that created the heavens and the earth, to the God that stands in the future and knows where I'm at, and not to quote your book, but calls me to the deep, to just lead me to where he wants me. And that's really the heart of that line, is you're in my future, you fix whatever's wrong. But even if you don't fix what's wrong, I know you're never changing, and I'm going to trust you anyway.
And you can put your guitar down there. I see you're kind of like cramped with it, but so never changing, always the same. Abba Father, I give you praise. You're in my future. You fix what's wrong. You're moving mountains so I can go on. So you're in my future. You fix what's wrong. You're moving mountains. Talk about those mountains.
So for me, the mountains were just where I was in life. Like, everything seemed like a huge fate. Like, when I think of mountains, I don't think of, we have beautiful rolling hills here in West Virginia, but I'm thinking like the Everests of the world. I'm thinking of the things that look too hard to climb. I'm thinking of the things that you see it in front of you, you want it to disappear, but it doesn't. And I do remember when I wrote that line, you're moving mountains, I was thinking about the situation that inspired In the Silence. And I don't want to delve too deep into that again, but I was thinking about that situation, and I was just praying like, okay, God, like, you can move mountains, and I'm believing you're going to move mountains. So like, fix the situation. But to like be a more personal, like for someone else, like, I think we get overwhelmed with the situations in life so often that we see these things and they look too great. And they're too great for us. Like, we can't fix a lot of the problems we face in life, but God is a God that can. And so that was just me saying, you're going to move mountains. Like, with a mustard seed of faith, I'm trusting you. But again, I was saying that, believing that he was going to turn things how I thought they should be. And again, I've realized that that's not how God works. And not that God wants bad things to happen. We live in a sinful world, and things happen that we don't want to happen. But God, the Bible does say that God does work all things for the good to those who are the called according to his purpose. And this was just me trying to trust that there was a purpose for my life, that I was called to do what he has called me to do, and that the mountains in front of me couldn't face me, couldn't challenge me, because he was greater than the mountains. And that's really where I was when I wrote that line.
So was it more of maybe like an anthem of faith, like you were declaring to that situation? And again, we're not going to dive into that. We don't want it to, but at the same time, it was a situation that impacted a lot of your music. So we just encourage the listener, go back and listen to episode 1 in the silence so you can better understand what we're talking about today. But so you were kind of speaking to that situation through this song and saying, that is the mountain, God, you can move it. And the reality is that mountain wasn't moved. Or it's always so difficult spiritually to speak and say that a mountain wasn't moved, because what we perceive as a mountain may not be a mountain that God perceives. So, but let's say it this way, that circumstance did not change. In a lot of ways, it just got way worse. So looking back on this now, 6 years ago, somewhere in there that you wrote this, never changing, it was sort of a declaration over that situation that never changed.
Yeah, it was me believing and having faith. And I think, and this is where my faith got rocky for a while, just to be honest, because it was like, I'm believing that God can do anything, and I'm believing he can change anything. And then, so I'm declaring in faith in this song, you're never changing, and you can move mountains, and you can do all these things. And then to see later that those mountains or those circumstances didn't change, it caused my faith for a while to be in flux, I guess. It was like a wave. Like 1 minute I was high, next minute I was low. And, I didn't know what to believe. It was like, I believe in this God that can do anything, yet God isn't doing what I think he should. And it was just a place for me, just learning who he was. Because again, I had remembered, I know I said this last episode, but I remember all the stories you've shared from your childhood of all the miracles God did, healing cancer, to you going to India, and he was doing all these miraculous things. And then it was like, but I'm just praying for one thing to me that seemed smaller than healing a boy with polio. And yet it wasn't changing for me.
But I think that to you, you mentioned that situation, which was a family issue, as we talked about in episode 1, my sister, Breanna's aunt, and my brother-in-law, Breanna's uncle, separated and ultimately divorced. And they were such a big part of our lives. And then not only did they divorce, they just disappeared. And, Breanna categorized it as a second mother and father. And that relationship just ended. It just came to a close. And so it was very traumatizing for everyone, honestly. But, Breanna, you said that you think that, at least at that time, you thought, well, this is smaller than some of the miracles, right? But the will of a person can be really strong. And, I've often said, and I know you've echoed it many times, that God is a gentleman, doesn't force himself on anyone. So actually, I don't know. I think sometimes miracles are easier than overcoming the will of a person who have decided that they're going to go a certain way, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah. I mean, now that I've grown and where I'm at, obviously I'm definitely not where I want to be, and I definitely still struggle. Obviously I'm not going to sit here and be like, I've got life figured out and I know everything, because I don't. And there's many days, even this past week, that I've just been 1 minute I'm high, 1 minute I'm low. And so I'm not going to sit here and act like I have all the answers. But, I have seen miracles in my life, and I'll get to those things for other songs, because they have impacted songs I've written. But I have determined, I've seen that there are situations that, it's not that God doesn't want to fix things, because he does fix things. Like, he fixes all things. But it is that will of a person. And yeah, he isn't going to force himself. If you're in a circumstance that, like, you're doubting God and you're questioning God, and you have people speaking into your life, and you have people like speaking faith and scripture, those are seeds that are being planted, but you have to accept the invitation. I think about it like a birthday invitation. You're given an invitation to go to a birthday party, and you can either throw the invitation in the trash without second glance, or you can accept the invitation, or you can set it on your counter, kind of look at it for a while and think about it. But God is never going to force you to join him. He's never going to force himself on you. And so, yeah, I think that is a good point, that the will of people sometimes can defer what can happen.
God can do anything. He gives us a free will, right? So looking back at the song in the first verse, the words are, "You've seen me at my weakest. You've seen me when I'm broken. Still your love for me is endless, like nothing I've felt before." So you say, Lord, you've seen me, because you've said this already on this program about the highs and the lows, but then you say, your love for me is endless. Talk about that.
So God's love is unconditional. Like and so many people push him to the side, they curse him, they don't accept him, yet he still loves you. Like, he still loves you. Now, you have to choose if you're going to accept him, and that's going to determine, if you accept Jesus into your heart, if you're forgiven of your sins, that's going to determine if you go to heaven with him or not, or hell. Those are the things because hell and heaven are both very real, but God is never going to stop loving you. And for me, that line was the realization that his love is endless. Like, I am in the highs and lows of life, yet his love is endless. I don't understand life, but he loves me. I have cried and I have doubted him, and yet he still calls me and says, come to me. I just want to love on you. And that's really what I was experiencing in those seasons. I mean, the countless nights of going to bed, crying, wondering, asking so many questions, and in a lot of times not getting those questions answered, yet knowing without a shadow of a doubt that he loved me. And that's how I was able to face the day. That's how I was able to get up and know that greater is he that is in me than he is in the world. And what that means is that greater is Jesus that died for me, that lives in me, than Satan, who goes around like a roaring lion, seeking who he can devour. He's greater than him. And if he can live in me, and if he loves me, then I can face whatever circumstances this life has, because he loves me. And that's all I needed in that moment.
Amen. I know many times in my life I have also been seeking answers and haven't been provided answers. But what he does in many of those cases is he does reveal his love. He reveals that, hey, you know what, you're going to get through this because I am never changing. I'm never going to leave. I'm never going to forsake you, no matter what you do, no matter what you walk through. And it is such a refreshing and rejuvenating moment that, honestly, in those times when I desperately wanted an answer, I desperately wanted to hear his voice, I desperately needed direction, or at least I felt that I desperately needed it. It was him saying, hey, I got you. You know, you don't need all the instructions right now, but I still got you, and I'm not done. And that's always really powerful. So, well, speaking of powerful, what a powerful start to our conversation with Breanna Megan as we are diving into the heart behind the song of Never Changing. We're reminded that no matter what we face, God's character is steady, and his promises, they never fail. We've got more to unpack after the break, so don't go anywhere. Stay with us, because when we come back, we'll talk more about the journey that shaped the song and how it speaks directly into the lives of listeners today. In a world filled with noise, Anchor Point Media Network is here to bring you truth, clarity, and hope. We're not just another media outlet. We are where faith and leadership meet media. Listen to What's Important Now with me, Tom Sears, tackling the tough issues of our day, fighting for the soul of America, and looking at the world with a biblical lens. Or join Breanna Megan on More Than a Song, where every lyric has a story and every song carries a message deeper than the music. Step into encouragement with Faith Danielle on Be the One, a podcast challenging you to rise up and be the difference God is calling you to be. And experience the life-changing messages from New Beginnings Live, straight from our Sunday morning services to wherever you are. This is more than media, it's a movement. Subscribe today to Anchor Point Media Network on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, because it does matter, and it is important now. Anchor Point Media Network, where faith and leadership meet media. Hey guys, I wanted to tell you about two books that I've written that come straight from the heart. The first is Into the Deep, Pursuing Your Purpose by Pursuing Intimacy with God. It's about leaving the shallow waters of faith and diving into a life of true purpose and closeness with Him. This book has been a multi-year project. Started it about 5 years ago, worked on it from time to time, but this past summer was able to step away and really put everything together. The second book is While It Is Day, Living with the Eternal Urgency. And in it, I share the importance of living every moment like it matters for eternity, because time is short. The foundation of that book is a sermon that I had preached not that long ago from John chapter 9, verse 4. Both books are available right now on Amazon. Just search Into the Deep or While It Is Day by Tom Sears, and I believe you'll be encouraged and challenged to go deeper with God.
You're leading me. You are my future. You are my hope. God of all ages, you'll never let go.
Welcome back to More Than a Song. I'm your host, Tom Sears, and today I'm joined by my daughter, Christian singer and songwriter, Breanna Megan. Now, before the break, we started unpacking the heart behind her powerful song, Never Changing. That is from her first album called Near. And now we're going to dive a little deeper into the story, the inspiration, the faith, and the message that makes the song more than just lyrics on a page.
So first, I do want to say, this entire album, so both my albums, Near and The Rescue, both are segments of two separate seasons I was in. So for Near, every song you hear was written during a season of unknowns, of questions, of doubt. And it was that up and down faith of wondering, okay, when are things going to change? And so that second verse that I was just singing, it says, I know you're with me, even when I can't see. Light in the darkness, you're leading me. You are my future. You are my hope. God of all ages, you'll never let go. And when I wrote that, I was thinking about Jeremiah 29:11, how it talks about that He knows the plans that He has for us. And so you are my future, meaning that I don't have to have it figured out. You are my future. You go before me. You make a plan, and my future is held in Him. And I say that, and some people might hear that and be like, well, that doesn't make sense. That's confusing. But for me, to know that God is my future, it just means that wherever this life may take me, He is what holds me. And then He is my hope. He is the firm foundation that I'm going to stand on. Even when I feel like I'm sinking, I'm reminded of the poem, The Footprints in the Sand. And every time we go to the beach, I always think of this poem, because when you're walking, you see one set of footprints. And in that poem, it's referring to Jesus carrying you. And there's so many times in this season of life that I was in when I was writing this album that I didn't know was going to be an album, by the way. I was writing it. I was writing these songs just from a place of hurt or joy or pain or excitement. I was just writing and didn't think that any of this was going to come to be. And so I was just writing from my heart and knowing that he was holding me. And to kind of go off of that a little bit, I remember it was 2019. Everything happened in 2019 apparently. And so it was 2019, and I remember it was a Sunday night, and we were planning for Sunday night service, and we would always go out to eat, come back to the church, and kind of hang out and prepare before service, which I always loved that. And so we're here. You were in the media room where you do your What's Important Now radio show, and you were just doing stuff. I don't really know what you were doing. And I think we were fooling around with songs, actually. And I went in, and I had this feeling in my stomach, and I was like, I need to tell him we need to release my songs. And I don't know if I've ever told you this, actually.
I don't think you have.
And so I had this like feeling in my stomach, and I was like, I need to tell him, like, and that's not like me. If anybody knows me, I mean, you know me, but like anybody listening, like that's not me. I'm not somebody that wants to be in the spotlight. I'm not somebody that wants to put myself out there like that. And so I had that feeling in my stomach, and I look at you, and your head was turned, and I literally opened my mouth, and it was like my mouth was shut. And I always related to, I was just scared to tell you, but it wasn't that. It was, I wasn't supposed to say it. The very next day, I was babysitting my cousins, and I remember sitting on the couch. It was like 9:30 in the morning, and you sent me a text and said, I just contacted a guy about getting your songs recorded. And I remember sitting there like, oh my gosh, because it was like I literally had that feeling the day before, because you had always told me your songs aren't meant to stay in a notebook. You know, I was writing all these songs, and you were like, they're not meant to just sit in a notebook. God didn't give you these songs to just sit in a notebook. And I had really been thinking about that. And then I had that feeling in my stomach. And then the next day you texted and was like, I contacted somebody.
Well, thanks for sharing that, because honest to goodness, I did not know that. I think I do remember after sending you that text, you know, that we've contacted someone about, you know, getting your songs recorded. I think I do remember that you said something along the lines of, you know, I feel that I felt that, or something like that, like confirmation or whatever. But I didn't know you walked in to tell me, and then you just kind of zipped it. So thanks for sharing that one. But no, that's awesome. And I do feel very strongly about your music, and I think that one of the more miraculous parts of this is the songwriting process that maybe a lot of people don't know about. I mean, I know about it, but I mean, there's some really good lyrics in all the songs that you've written. And if you wouldn't mind, tell the listening audience what the typical process is of you writing a song.
So for me, writing a song is more than a song. I didn't mean to say that, but that just came out, the title of this podcast. Anyway, it's a time for me to be with God. It's not just, today I'm going to grab my guitar and I'm going to write a song. That's never what I think. It's always God is placing things on my heart, and this has been a lot of times too. There's been many times that it's like, I just need to release what I'm feeling, whether that's brokenness for the world, which is there's songs like that for the Rescue album, not to jump ahead, or just, you know, processing life and what I'm going through, like in the silence and never changing. So it's never just, I'm going to go and I'm going to just write a song. It's always, I'm going to go spend time with Jesus. And usually by spending time with Jesus, a song comes out. And so usually it entails grabbing my guitar and usually coming to the church, sitting there. And I usually start off with I'll play worship music through the speakers, and I'll just walk around. I'm by myself. No one's here. I walk around and I'm just worshiping him, crying, praying, whatever I'm feeling, I'm just giving it to him. It's really a time for me to be with him. It takes away all the noise. It takes away everything. And I know people talk about like a prayer closet. Well, it's not a closet, it's a sanctuary, but that's like my prayer closet, I guess you could say. And so I just walk around and I just worship him. And then usually I'm either preparing for service, or maybe I have a performance that I have to attend, and I'm just practicing or warming up or whatever I'm doing. And then sometimes lyrics will just come to me and I just start writing them down on paper. Or sometimes I'm in my car and songs come to my mind. Or there's times that I'm just walking. I mean, there's been so many times I've been like riding my bike or something and lyrics will come to me, and I stop what I'm doing. I grab my phone, I go to my voice memos, and I just start recording. And I looked the other day, I have like 800 and some voice memos on my phone, and many of those are songs that haven't been finished yet.
How many?
800 and some.
Okay, just real quick. 800 songs?
Not all of them are songs. So like some of them are like pieces of songs that like maybe I recorded a verse and then I went through it and then I recorded a separate one with like a chorus. But a lot of them are songs, like a verse to a song that I've never finished writing, or a chorus to a song I've never finished writing, or just an idea or a melody that I've got for a song. So yeah, I was like 848 voice memos.
No. Okay. I knew that you had written a lot of songs, and I get that they're not all finished by any means, but and I had erroneously stated last episode that Near had 10 songs. It actually has 12.
Yeah, it has 12.
And and then The Rescue, the second album, has 10, and then the new album, Piece by Piece, will have 10. And I thought maybe you had another 30. I think it was it last Sunday in church where it was kind of like, Breanna's writing songs and whatever. And I was like, she's probably got 30 more. And she just kind of looked at me, and now I know why, because it's like a lot more than I had imagined.
Well, when you said that, and of course I can't speak out in church, like, no, you're wrong. Like,
I appreciate that.
It was like, I was imagining the notebooks I have. Like, I have a lot of notebooks that I've written. And I don't say that, like, I don't want people hearing that and thinking, oh my gosh, here's this girl being, bragging about. It's not that. I'm a writer. I've always been a writer, whether it was in high school and they told us to write a 2-page essay and I went on and wrote 8 pages, or a short story, or I've attempted poems. So it's like, that's what I do. That's how I get my thoughts out. So writing has always been my outlet. And so, yeah, when you said that at church, it was like I was imagining the notebooks that when I look at the songs, I'm like, ew, that's not good. But like, I think God gave them to me. They were at least seeds, and I can at least attempt to
So
fix them.
a lot of them are just simply like starting points or a thought.
There's a lot in the notebooks that are done, but they need a lot of editing, which you're my editor in chief. So
Okay, so let's back up a second. Okay, so because I'm a little bit blown away by this, honestly. I can't say that I'm surprised, but I am a little blown away. So when we talk about the songwriting process, on average, talk about how the song comes to you, and on average, how long, at least the framework. Because I know when you talk about editing, because you do usually come to me and you're like, hey, here's this new song. Usually you only give me the ones that you think there's like something to.
yeah.
But then there's others that like, I've like said, hey, what else you got? And then I'm like, Breanna, this is really good. We need to tweak this or change that. But like, this is really good. But the process, I think, is where the miracle is found. Talk about, on average, how long it takes to put the lyrics on a piece of paper.
So I just wrote another song. It was not last week, but the week before I wrote another song. I don't think I told you.
You didn't.
Because it's one of those things that I'm like, I don't know if it's good. And I think, okay, well, I'm not going to share this with him right now because I don't think it's good. And then usually whenever I do that, you like it. And then I'm like surprised you liked it because I was like, I didn't think it was that good. So anyway, so I'm just going to use that song as an example because it was the most recent. So a couple weeks ago, came to the church, grabbed my guitar, and I started writing a song. And I had a melody in my head of how I wanted it to sound. And oftentimes it's hard to find the chords to go with the melody that I want. But I had the melody. I grab my notebook and I just start writing the first verse. And it came out. The first verse was maybe 2 minutes, and that's a maybe. I was writing really fast with that one. And then usually I'll grab my phone and I'll record, which is why I say not all 800 and whatever voice memos are brand new songs. But I'll grab my phone and I'll record it so that I don't forget the melody. Because, when writing songs, there's a lot of times that you record it or you sing it, but then you forget how it goes. So I recorded it to remember. And then as I'm singing the verse to record it to the voice memos, the chorus comes out.
So without having it on paper?
Without having it on paper. So it usually comes out spontaneously.
So let me ask you this, because I think maybe I'm even learning something here. I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, are some of your songs on paper first, or are they typically guitar, I sing it, I record it, and then I write down the lyrics?
It happens both ways. A lot more. I don't know how to. I'm messing with.
A lot more.
More often than not. There we go.
Okay.
More often than not, it's me recording into my phone and just singing. Now, there are times that usually when I sit down to write a song, I just hit voice memos and hit record, and then I start singing. And then I go back, listen to the voice memo, and write down what I just sang. And then that's how the words become on paper.
That's crazy, because I guess I thought you wrote it down, which I guess still happens sometimes, or maybe even early on it happened, and that you got the lyrics. But actually, so what you're saying is that your songs are coming to you in a more spontaneous, spiritual way, that you're singing into your phone. How do you know another song's coming? How does that happen? I mean, how do you know to hit record on your phone?
I don't know. That's an interesting question, because that's a good question.
I thought it was.
It is a good question. It's just to try to explain it. It's weird, because I feel it right now. I feel that feeling. It's weird. It's like there's really no words to even explain it. It's
a spiritual thing.
It is. It's it feels like it flows from my feet to my head, and then it just comes out. And I don't know how to explain that. I don't know other than that.
Okay.
It's just
So it's a very spiritual thing.
Yes.
I mean, there's just no other way to explain it. We talk about trying to find an explanation. That there's really no explanation other than it's very spiritual. And wow, yeah. So that's news to me as well. Honestly, it is, because I didn't. And maybe I knew that about some of them, but I guess I didn't realize that. I just thought that it was going to paper. But then here's the other miraculous part about that. When you talk about a melody, so you're not only getting the lyrics, you're getting sort of the tune.
Yeah, I can hear it in my head. So I hear how I want it to flow. Sometimes it'll come out, I'll hum it. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I had a hum for you, but there you go.
You didn't hum for me, you hummed for everyone else.
And so I'll hum sometimes, not all times, but yeah, I always hear a melody. I can hear it in my head. It's I don't want to use the word angelic, but almost, and I can hear it. And then it's now hear the words to what you're hearing.
Interesting. Well, and all the more reason why, God, I believe, wants the music out there, because it is more than a song. He's actually using it to speak, I believe. And some of the songs coming up that we'll talk about. And now next week, we talk about You, or I should say next episode, we talk about You, which is the third song on the album. I'm really excited about the fourth episode, and I'll tell you why. There's a couple things, and I'm going to try not to get emotional talking about it. But it's called Outcast, and it was my granny's favorite song that you wrote. She loved that song, and yeah. So my grandmother recently passed away, and such a cornerstone of our family and faith. When you talk about how I ended up being a minister and all that, she played such a huge, huge part. And it's crazy, because even when in sermons, sometimes God always, so I kind of understand when you talk about writing these songs. Like when I'm ministering, I sometimes will hear things that I know I have to share with the people. And a lot of times, not a lot of times, but sometimes I'll hear Granny singing a song. So like if I'm getting ready to give an altar call, it's like I can hear her singing that song that says, roll back the curtain of memory now and then. Show me, Lord, where you brought me from and where I could have been. And it was from a childhood of hearing her play that probably 100 times during the altar service where people went to the altar to release things. And so I get that, but I don't know. I'm really excited moving forward with that one. And then week 5, or quit saying week, episode 5 would be The Father's Cry, which is, I'll be honest with you, still to the, and this is me being 150% transparent. It's still uncomfortable for me to hear. Like the song is, I love the song, and I'm not saying that it is sung from the voice of the Father, and it is, it's hard to hear. It is, because I feel like God is speaking right to me. And that's, so it makes it a little uncomfortable. But we have 12 songs on the Near album that we're going to break down. And so one of the things I would like to do, and I kind of just thought of this while we were talking today, one of the things I would like to do is keep a running, record of you have to pick. Oh, and if you could see her eyes she was just like, uh-oh. So we're going to take it week by week, okay? And we're going to ask you to pick which song you prefer or which is your favorite of the songs we've talked about so far. And so one way to make that easy for you, what did you think I was going to say?
I thought you were going to ask me like what my favorite song is that I've written, and I was going to say
that is down the road.
Okay,
that's down the road.
I really need to think about that.
Yeah, but I think what I think is that if we do it week by week, it's kind of like, so whatever you pick this week will be compared to
next week,
next episode, and we typically record every week, but I keep saying that, so. But that's not always going to be the case. So anyway, okay. So last week we talked about In the Silence, and today we talked about Never Changing. I have a feeling this is not a hard choice for you.
It's not. This one's not hard.
Okay, so of the two, what is your favorite?
In the Silence.
Why?
Because In the Silence was, yes, Never Changing is good, right? Like, it's good. But In the Silence, one, it started it all for me. I heard God's voice so clearly, and it still to this day is, I don't want to say it's my favorite song I've written.
Yeah, because if you say that, then every episode is.
And I don't know if it really is, but I can just say that it still impacts me to this day.
I do suspect that it will be number one, at least for a while.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for some. Like, it'll be hard to choose with some.
If we can at least get to the point where it's kind of like you just said, it's in that place where you're like, oh, I don't know, this one's really good. I have another one that I think, and I don't even want you to comment on this because it's, spoiler alert type thing. But another one I think that will be up there on the list is Eyes on You. Is that right? Don't say what's your favorite, just Eyes on You from your second album.
That would definitely be up there.
Okay.
Because it's a story.
Yeah.
A big story that I'm nervous to share. But I feel like I need to.
Well, it's at the end of the Rescue album. So
you have a long time to wait.
So that is what would that be? Episode 22.
Yeah.
I think that's right, if I did that math right.
That would be
Episode
right.
22 would be Eyes on You.
Yeah. So you got to keep listening so you can see what I pick.
So give them just a very small teaser of next week's program where we look at the song that's simply titled You.
So I don't know how to talk about it without really.
Well, just don't go into great detail. Just.
It's so hard for me. You know
okay,
that.
She's struggling.
I was going to say it was just a intimate moment with God in my bedroom where I was really recognizing him for the first time.
There's a line in there I do want you to say, because it's probably my favorite. And it basically says, I can't wait to show the world what you've done in me. How does that go? Did I say that right?
Well, you always do this to me, even at church. You'll be like, how's that line go? And then I go blank. Gosh.
Oh, I'm looking now.
Okay, good. You look.
Okay, here it is. I'm excited to show the world what you mean to me.
Yes. So you want me to explain that? Is that what you're on?
No, I just wanted to. That is my favorite line, yeah. And I think it captures what you just said about sort of that intimate moment with God. And so, I don't know. Next episode, we'll talk about you, not you,
not me.
We will talk about you, but it's the song "You."
It's always a joke whenever I'm like, even for worship, when I tell the gentleman that puts the songs in for the TVs so everybody can see what's going on, I'm like, all right, the next one is "You," and there's another gentleman that's here at church, and he's like, "You? No, me, not you, me." So it's just an inside joke kind of thing. But yeah, I like it. It's a good one it'll be a good one to talk about, I think.
Good deal. Okay. Well, thank you again, because it's an opportunity. It's probably easier to talk about someone else's song and what someone else's song, how it's impacted you, how it made a difference in your life or whatever. It's probably more challenging to talk about your own songs, because it does require a level of vulnerability to be able to share some of that. So, ladies and gentlemen, what an incredible conversation that we've been able to have today with Breanna about her song, Never Changing. And I hope that you were encouraged by something that was said today, and that you hear this program and you know that as a reminder that we serve a God that never changes. As she said, he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He remains faithful. He remains true. So thank you for listening. Thank you for making episode 1 such a big success, and we hope that the same is true for episode 2. Thank you for helping us get this podcast sort of off the ground and with such a strong start. Remember, more than a song, it's part of the Anchor Point Media Network, and we'd love for you to keep this journey going with us. So don't forget to subscribe, share, leave a review, because it really helps others discover the message behind the music. And we also have other programs. What's Important Now is a program I've hosted for, get this, Breanna, since 2003, 22 years.
I remember, if I could just say this real quick.
Sure.
I remember obviously I'm 26, so I would, there's my age again. I would go with you to, I remember when you started at the radio station.
Yeah.
I remember going there sometimes, and then the Church of Life. I remember when you would record, and I would go with you to record. Those are things I think about that. Yeah,
it's had a nice long run. God's used it. I still get people all the time that come up to me and say, "Hey, I heard you," and it is on FM radio stations and of course on our podcasting platform. And if I could plug it a little bit, I just started a series asking the question, "Is America dying?" And so it's going to be a multi-episode presentation of trying to answer the question, "Is America dying?" and compare it to the Roman Empire and all that stuff. So, but anyway, yeah, you can find that on all the podcasting platforms as well. So be sure to join us next time when we'll be talking with Breanna about another powerful track from the Near album, a song simply titled "You." And trust me, you don't want to miss it. Until then, remember, these songs are more than just words, more than melodies. They are, in fact, more than a song. God bless. The streets.